Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here on this Independence Weekend. Today, I want to share a few things with you today. My intention is to share about freedom. I believe that freedom is a creative process, an inside job, and as Susan just so beautifully read, our daily word, we are interconnected. We can't do it alone. So it's an inside job, and we can't do it alone. Because we know that two things that might seem not to connect can be true. Two things can be true. Ken, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. All right, but let's start. Oh, I have the clicker. I have the power. Is it going to work? The light isn't on. Is it going to work? We'll try. It's a magical day, people. So let's start the way I always like to start, with getting coherent, getting that heart and our brains connected, recognizing our interconnections. If you look at the visual I have on the screen, it shows that our heart radiates out. It has an electromagnetic field, and it does interconnect all of us. So today, I'm going to invite you to keep your eyes open. I don't want to put anybody to sleep right away. So just keep your eyes open, but if you like, place your hand over your heart and imagine your breath flowing a little slower and a little deeper, finding an easy, comfortable rhythm with equal inhales and exhales, and think of something that makes you smile. And just breathe in that smile for a moment. Let your whole body feel that smile. And just know that you just released 1,400 chemicals, 1,400 hormones in your body to help you make that connection from head to heart that we talk about all the time at Unity. That's that coherent connection. And that vibrates out because we did it through our heart, so it vibrates out and connects us. So, for today, as we celebrate 250 years of independence for our country, I thought it would be interesting. Well, I thought it would be interesting for me. Hopefully it'll be interesting for you. But for me, I wanted to kind of research or review or remember why our country was created. And the first thing that came to me was, I know the answer to that. Now, I was not a good history student. And I wasn't good at geography. Still very weak on the maps. But we have GPS, so it's not as difficult right now for me. It's technology, things have evolved, and I get support because we're interconnected, right? We're interconnected with technology, whether we like it or not. Sometimes it's helpful. So when I asked myself, like, why was our country created? Like, I know the answer to that. It's because we didn't want to be taxed anymore by the British, and because we wanted religious freedom. And while those were two important underlying aspects, there was something even deeper, even more revolutionary on many levels as to how and why our country was created. And what our forefathers recognized that was very different. It was very creative. It wasn't really acknowledged or known throughout the world, is that as humans, we have inherent rights just by our nature, and they were endowed to us by our Creator. And those rights are, the term that we use now would be inalienable, but actually in the Declaration of Independence, they use the term unalienable, meaning they can't be taken away. And this is the part that's different. our forefounders recognized that government was created to protect those rights, not to grant them, not to create them, not to come up with new rights, but to protect the rights that we hold. So the government's authority came from the consent of those being governed, from us. We create the government to protect our rights. This was revolutionary. This in most of the world, government or rulership or authority was based on monarchies or empires that conquered and pressed down upon people, or through bloodlines. So our founders recognized that human rights, as it says in the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident. Now, that all men are created equal. Now, we'll talk about that in a second. Just bear with me. But that they are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So, as humans have rights, and governments are created to protect those rights. And this idea that all men are created equal, that wasn't something that we, sorry, my notes are messed up. GPS again. Well, I guess I'm just going to have to go from my memory of my notes. So, that was the intention. Now we know that all people are created equal. So the idea of created equal, it might have been realized before it really became manifest, because certainly in this country, all men, should have said maybe all white men, right? Like enslaved Africans, women, Native Americans, we didn't get the equality for a while. But does this remind you of anything else that perhaps we teach at Unity, that we are endowed with our Creator with some right? Does it remind you of anything that we've been trying to learn and understand better? The prayer chaplains are reading a book called Discover Your Divinity. So that's a clue for you. But that reminds me of this idea that we hold the divine nature. We are divine. We are fully human and we are fully divine. Two things can be true at the same time. So just as the forefounders recognized that we had inherent rights and that the government should be created to protect those rights, we have this divine nature. Sometimes we don't recognize our own divine nature. Sometimes we don't recognize Lonnie's divine nature. But I often do. But sometimes we don't recognize each other's divine nature. So we're learning. So the idea is there. We say it all the time, every morning on Sunday service, when we recite our Unity invocation. We recognize, we say it, right? We have it up here. We need to bring it down here. We need to manifest that. So what I want to look at now is so one of my Unity heartthrobs, Eric Butterworth. Eric Butterworth is a fabulous Unity author, and he was a Unity minister, and he preached in New York City to crowds of thousands. And he was very much about unlearning our concept of God. So I always thought, if he had a bumper sticker, that's what his bumper sticker would say. Ask me about unlearning your concept of God. In other words, ask me about helping you to remember you are divine. Eric spoke on July 4th, 1979, to a crowd of thousands in New York City. And he talked about freedom, given that it was July 4th. And he talked about freedom from, and I want to go back to our metaphysical definition of freedom. Our metaphysical definition, this is from The Revealing Word by Charles Fillmore, and it tells us what freedom is, and it also tells us how to achieve that freedom. So, freedom, this is the essence of the definition in The Revealing Word. Having a sense of complete well-being. Doesn't that just make you go, oh, a complete sense of well-being? No problems, no disagreements, no personality conflicts, no crisis, no disease, no illness, no poverty, no bills to pay. Like, I don't think that's what Charles really meant by having a sense of complete well-being. And that's what Eric Butterworth talked about in his July 4th address in 1979. Freedom is not the freedom from something. It's not running away from your oppressors. It's not running away from an illness. It's the freedom to. So you've got your circumstances, you've got your situation. What are you going to do with that? Freedom is being creative with it. What do you have the freedom to do? And we have many examples of people that faced hardships and like literally turned lemons into lemonade. And one of, I know this person personally, he's a very good friend of Richard's. This man, at the age of 19, he was a private first class in the Army, and he had a horrible accident. He was blinded in both eyes. And he went on to get a degree in industrial arts. Now, I don't know a lot about industrial arts, but I'm pretty sure you have to use things like saws and, things that I wouldn't want to do with my eyes closed. I don't even know if I'd want to do them with my eyes open. But he got this degree in industrial arts. And then later in life, he became the executive director of the Western New York Independent Living Association. And when he became the director, their budget was $100,000. He was director for 40 years. That budget reached $50 million. He was invited to the White House in the 90s when the first George Bush signed the American Disabilities Act. And Richard tells me the story. There's a picture of Doug looking over George's shoulder as George is signing the American Disabilities Act. And Richard says, I don't know what he's looking at. But he didn't run from his blindness. He didn't say, oh, I need to be free. I need my sight back. He took that. And if you think about it, having the experience of being sighted and then losing his sight, most people would think of that as a horrible situation. And it probably was horrible. But look what he did with that. Look what he was able to do with that. I don't know that a sighted person would have had that motivation or that complete understanding of what it would take or what blind people go through. So he used that experience to create something revolutionary. He took the Independent Living Center from a $100,000 budget to $50 million budget. Truly remarkable. So now I want to go back to, what he demonstrated was that no circumstance can imprison the divine potential within us. And that takes us to the second half of the metaphysical definition of freedom. So what it is, having this sense of complete well-being, which doesn't mean no problems, but having this complete sense of well-being that I have the creativity to create something that I wouldn't have had before. And the second part is, how do we do that? It's a result of regulating one's life according to principle, not according to what anyone else may think or say. I mean, how many people probably told him, an industrial arts degree? Really? Is that really wise? Didn't matter. He was regulating his life according to principle. So what do we mean by principle, just as a little quick review? Principle means pertaining to God, the divine. Principle is the great underlying cause of all manifestations. And here's the little the little paradox. Although principle is formless, it is that by which all form is produced. So we like to say at Unity that things are always created first, or twice. First in the mind, and then made physical reality. Principle is the I am of every man. Yesterday's daily word was freedom. The Spirit of God within, also, which would be the principle, releases me from my fears and burdens. I have the power to create my life's experience and the freedom to choose how to think, feel, and act. So when Doug had his accident and lost his eyesight, he had the freedom to choose how he thought about it. Did he choose the thoughts of lack and poor me? No, he didn't. Well, maybe he did for a little while, I don't know, but ultimately he certainly didn't. So this points to the fact that freedom as a creative process in how we choose what to think and feel and act, that choice is so important. And when we allow ourselves to choose to think and feel and act from lack, or from I can't, or I'm not worthy, we're blocking our own freedom. We're capping it. We're limiting it. The affirmation is, I am divine. I am free to live, to love, and to create my life anew. I love that last word, because that doesn't matter what happened before. That doesn't matter what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter what happened 5 minutes ago. I am free to choose the thoughts, to allow thoughts of goodness and worthiness to fill me up and to create my life in this now moment. And then that brings us to today's daily word, which was interdependence. So isn't that interesting that we went from freedom yesterday to interdependence? As Susan read for us so beautifully this morning, I'm just going to highlight a little part of it. I deepen my awareness of the infinite goodness in all people. I also express my spiritual nature more fully and easily as I communicate, cooperate, and contribute to the good of others, and open my heart to receive. We belong to one another, united in our divinity and interdependent in our humanity. And that reminds me of this beautiful African word, Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. And I have a picture here of the redwood trees that we recently saw in California. And the redwood is a beautiful example. The redwood is interconnected through a web of roots and fungi, and it's interconnected to all the other trees and receives the sunlight. The redwood tree is magnificent. And it's not any less magnificent because it relies on the other trees or the interconnectedness. The magnificence of the redwood shines through because of the interconnectedness. Our magnificence shines through because we are interconnected. We do nothing here alone. There is nothing that we could have done on our own. You could say, well, I put myself through school. Not really, because you either probably got the money, if you were lucky enough to get it from your parents, or if you had to work for it, someone had to give you a job. There had to be some work for you to do. So there's nothing that we can do on our own, yet freedom is an inside job because we have to choose the thoughts that we allow. So, to conclude today, freedom is an inside job. It's a creative process, and it happens through our connections, our interconnections. First of all, our connection with ourself. Are we recognizing our worthiness? Are we recognizing our divine nature? Are we recognizing it in each other? And that principle, are we living through that principle of the formless that creates the form? Our founding fathers gave us political freedom that has created opportunities for us, so we stand on the shoulders of them. Spiritual freedom determines what we do with these opportunities. So on this Independence Weekend, we might ask ourselves, what are we creating? Are we creating peace and kindness? Or are we creating fear and division? Are we creating possibility and healing? Because with freedom always comes responsibility. Nearly 250 years ago, a courageous people imagined a nation founded on the revolutionary idea that human beings possess inherent dignities and rights. And today we inherit this not only as a gift, but as a responsibility. Every thought, every choice, every act of kindness, every moment we choose love over fear becomes another declaration of independence. Thank you.